Feminist, a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. So I don't know if you can tell, but I am one, but I haven't always been. I first discovered feminism at the age of 13, and it was really the first time I had ever been exposed to the idea of feminism or feminists, because prior to that, I had never even heard the word, much less understood what it meant. But once I learned more, I became so fiery and passionate about the subject that I pretty much just went around calling out people on their sexism. Every time someone I knew said something even the slightest bit sexist, I was immediately yelling and screaming in their face, telling them what was wrong with what they said. And this happened quite often, so I could go on forever telling you stories. But there's one instance in particular that still stands out to me to this day. It was in August of 2014, and my family and I had taken a trip to Disney. On our last day there, we were in this restaurant eating dinner, and at one point, one of my brothers decided to start talking about the phrase, "you hit like a girl." So of course, being a newly self-proclaimed feminist, I felt obligated to let him know that that phrase was offensive, and that he probably shouldn't use it because it's essentially painting all women as weak. Well, he elected to disagree with me. Not because he didn't believe the phrase was problematic, but rather because some girls actually hit like that. You can imagine my utter bewilderment at his comment. After that trip, I just couldn't wrap my head around why I couldn't explain to him that saying those kinds of things was offensive. But when I look back on it now, I realize that the answer was right there in front of me. There we were, discussing gender inequality and stereotypes in Disney, the poster franchise for creating stereotypical characters. You see, Disney has this knack for producing films that feature the damsel in distress, or the fragile girl who can't protect herself and needs the strong, brave man to swoop in and save the day. If you had a childhood anything like mine, you would have grown up watching those movies. So doesn't it make sense that my brother wouldn't wrap his head around the idea that saying those kinds of things was no longer acceptable? Of course it does. Because like the majority of our generation, that's just the way he grew up. We have been raised to view each other in a certain way based off whether or not we are a boy or a girl. These viewpoints have been passed down from generation to generation, creating this vicious cycle of harmful stereotypes and assumptions about others. Feminists want to break this cycle. Because feminism is not about man-hating or the belief that women are better than men. It is simply a movement that aims to achieve equality and acceptance in all aspects of life. So, despite the fact that my approach to feminism has become slightly less aggressive, as in steam no longer shoots out of my ears every time someone says or does something sexist, I still feel equally as passionate about it. So I guess you could say not much has changed. But then again, the world really hasn't changed that much either. I'm still having the same conversations about the same topics I was 3 years ago, and that's a little problematic. I mean, sure, it's only been 3 years, and to say that we haven't made any progress isn't true, but that progress just hasn't gone far enough. I, as well as all feminists, understand that it's going to take time, and although it may seem impossible, we can be the ones to get us to where we need to be. How many of you plan on having kids? Quite a few. So when you're raising them, what will you expose them to? What sort of movies will you let them watch? Is it possible that our children could be exposed to the same forms of media that we were? Absolutely. Except we have the power to change that. We don't have to be the ones to continue this cycle that has been repeating itself over and over again since forever. We can change. We can be the ones to teach children about unity and acceptance and equality. We can be the generation that stops stereotyping people and giving people labels because there's a preconceived idea of who they're supposed to be. We can be the ones to teach children about freedom and choice, and we can let them know that they can be whoever they want to be and that they can love whoever they want to love. And all of a sudden, breaking that cycle doesn't seem so impossible, does it? There's a quote by a woman named Mary McLeod Bethune, who was a school teacher and activist, among many other things, in the early 20th century, and it says, "We have a powerful potential in our youth, and we must have the courage to change old ideas and practices so that we may direct their power towards good ends." We are the ones who have the power to make change happen. So, in the long run, our children won't be feminists. They will just be people who know that love is love and that no one should be judged or discriminated against because of their skin color, and that they can wear dresses or skirts or board shorts regardless of if they are a boy or a girl, because all of that will just be normal. The actions we take today are going to directly affect what happens in the future. And if we raise our children to value those ideals, then we will have no need for the word feminist. I stand here today as a feminist, and a very proud one at that, but I can only hope that there may come a day where I won't have to call myself one anymore, because love, acceptance, equality, freedom, and choice will be so ingrained in society that I'll just be called normal. Thank you.